Welcome everyone to our special live session today. We have something exciting planned that we're actually doing in this format for the very first time. I have Yari and Alicia with me, and we are going to do an in-depth review of Alicia's publication today. Let me know in the chat if you are here through LinkedIn, through Alicia, if you are on that side of the audience. Let me know if you've been on Substack before and if you are at this point where you basically want to learn what you could be doing better on your own publication. The chat is wide open for you. I'll be moderating the session. Yari and Alicia will be basically deep in the review. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them into the chat at any time. Thank you guys for taking time for this. Thank you, Alicia, for being the brave one on this side.
I might regret that later, but we will see.
No, I don't think so. Let's give the audience a quick recap of your Substack journey, Alicia, and basically why we are doing this in the first place. Give us a brief overview of your journey as a creator and why you decided to now be on Substack and why we are doing all of this.
All right. Okay. I tried to keep this as short as possible. But basically, I'm originally from Germany. That's where the accent is from, in case anyone is wondering and can't concentrate trying to figure out. I'm from Germany, but lived in London for the last 13 years. And I used to work in B2B tech sales, long corporate career. And most recently, I worked for LinkedIn. And when I was at LinkedIn, I was always helping companies how to show up on a platform, how to generate leads, how to have a good executive presence, all of these things. But I never posted myself. So in the end, I made the decision of I need to also do what I'm preaching. So I started posting on LinkedIn, and I would say it worked so well that in the end, so many opportunities came my way, so many doors opened that I decided to leave LinkedIn and have my own business. So now I'm basically self-employed, doing exactly what I did beforehand at LinkedIn, helping people how to show up on LinkedIn. And I kind of am now a LinkedIn creator, if you want to call it that way. I grew to over 40,000 followers, which is all nice and good. However, LinkedIn is constantly changing, which is good because they adapt with the times. They try to make the platform better. However, I realized there's so many emails being sent to users, me included, saying your account might be at risk of getting blocked for whatever reason. It's so the lack of transparency is really tricky for us creators. They are very strict around which tools to use. You're not allowed to have any sort of Chrome extensions. It's also everything is very vague. So I feel like constantly, and especially right now, we are walking on eggshells with LinkedIn. And it made me realize LinkedIn did a big algorithm change recently, and my reach dropped. And not just my reach, everyone's reach dropped dramatically. I mean, today is not about LinkedIn. I can talk about this for ages, but basically it's all supposed to get better. And as I said, I can talk about this for hours, but it made me realize that I'm on, as they say, rented land. My audience that I have, those 40,000 people, whilst it looks really nice on my profile, what happens if I'm getting blocked tomorrow? If LinkedIn, for whatever reason, cancels my account? What if LinkedIn shuts down? Also, when I put out content, how can I make sure that I actually reach my audience? And that made me realize that I need to have a plan B. And that plan B, the best case scenario, is having an email list. Then I was thinking, how can I proactively really grow my email list? And Substack came up in conversations over and over again. So I thought actually that would be a brilliant, multiple kind of way of one having an email list, but also growing the email list. So the discovery function as well. So it's not just that I have to proactively post about it on LinkedIn to get email addresses, but actually post on Substack and have new people coming to me. That is the initial idea. But then also with features on Substack, which I haven't touched at all yet, is paid subscriptions. So that's something we're curious about. Is there potentially a way for me to monetize my Substack audience and share my knowledge, which is currently all around LinkedIn, but on Substack, and potentially have an additional revenue stream? So those are my thoughts. That's my journey. And I'm literally, as we will see in a second, I'm very early on with my Substack journey and I have no clue what I'm doing.
That's actually so funny you're saying that you have no clue and you're early on, because I think right now you're at 800 plus subscribers, which is pretty decent, right? It's not like that's already a very substantial audience, with 800, 1,000 subscribers.
And I want to say as well, because someone asked me the other day, like, oh, how many people did actually come over from my LinkedIn audience? And I only posted about my Substack once on LinkedIn, which performed terribly, by the way, on LinkedIn. But also, the next few days, I only grew by around like 100 subscribers. So I think that one like push to get people from LinkedIn to my Substack only was like a fraction of the following. So most people I accrued organically on Substack.
Yeah, which is really remarkable, to be honest, which I think it's a great sign that like there is a large spot for your voice in particular. And it's funny because it's even though you are writing about LinkedIn or you are mentioning LinkedIn very frequently, right? And we kind of all assume that platforms don't like when you promote other platforms, obviously.
Yeah.
So I think that's the really interesting part about your journey in particular, is there's so much more to basically squeeze out, because yes, you talk about LinkedIn, but the lessons you share and the lessons you have learned are so widely applicable, which I think is a really interesting part of the conversation as well. Like, how could you position yourself to not be the LinkedIn girl on Substack, but to be another type of person who is very interesting for anyone who doesn't just want
I
to
like
learn
that.
about LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But I would say, let's dive in. So we're going to do a screen share of Alicia's publication in particular. We can also take a look at her profile if you want, Yari. That's up to you. The reason Yari is doing this is because he has basically done this kind of work hundreds of times. He is the one at Right Build Scale leading our coaching programs. And I think it's the most natural thing for him to do day in and day out. So I thought it makes sense to basically have the expert on the topic to do the review itself as well. And I know you already have pointed out a couple of things that you want to talk about, Yari. So let's do this.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it because, Alicia, you have a lot of things already going on for you really well. Like when I'm on your profile, I can really get an impression of who you are, and I think that's also why you have those 850 subscribers right now, and you have a lot of engagement on your notes. So I'm really excited to dive in. But before we dive into like your profile and your publication, I just want to hear from you, Alicia. Like, what are your main goals for your Substack publication right now? What is the main thing you're looking to work on and to achieve?
Okay, perfect. Before I answer that, Yara, you also need to help me and the audience to understand what is actually the difference between a profile and a publication. Because I only spoke to Sinem like 2 days ago, and this is where I realized those are actually two separate things. Honestly, when I set this up, I had no idea what I was setting up, and I had no idea those were like two separate things. Or are they separate? I don't know. So I just wanted to say that is something I would love to get an answer to. Um, and to answer your questions with what my goals are. So this might be a little bit unique for me. I hope for other people they can still take something away from it. But basically, right now, I don't have a service to offer. Like, I'm not trying to promote anything because I'm in the middle of shifting my business. I'm currently traveling. So I was rethinking my whole business. That was since I've become an entrepreneur about 9 months ago. Has been very much, oh, I just do one-on-one client work and whatever comes my way. But that is very time intensive. So I decided to shift my business more towards a digital product. So I want to create a digital course that I'm
Mhm.
currently building out. And once that's ready, or maybe even from now on, I want to start promoting it. But also this is why I want to use Substack. Is the music just on my end, or is music everywhere?
I am hearing some sort of sound in the background. Yes,
That might, I don't hear music, but I have
like
some
a drill.
construction work.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
I'll mute myself.
All
Sure.
right. All right. Well, at least I thought it was music and not just
Mhm.
construction work. Um, so number one goal for me right now is building that email list so that I can then start promoting my digital course
Mm.
when it's ready. And
Mhm.
then the second goal, which I haven't touched on yet, but I want to think about having a paid publication, if that's how you call it, paid
Yep.
subscribers. All right.
Got it. Thanks for sharing that context, Alicia. So, let's just start with the first thing, the profile versus publication, and then let's dive into the monetization aspect. So, on Substack, you have a profile, right? This is your profile, and your profile is always you, right? So, Alicia, that's your profile. Just like on any other social media platform, you have a personal profile. And your publication is more your newsletter itself, right? So, for example, if you go to our or my profile, you see this is my individual profile, and the publication is Right Build Skill. So you can call it go somewhere else. You can see it as a newsletter. You can see it as a magazine. Basically, you can see it as your business. So I always recommend your personal profile, make that you, right? That is your name, that's your personal image to it. And your publication, make that more branded, like a newsletter name, for example. So maybe your newsletter could have something with LinkedIn in it, or LinkedIn simplified, or you know, anything that instantly gives this impression, oh, this is what it's about. Um, and all your long form posts that you send out to those 850 subscribers, they basically live on your publication. So they live right here, right? So this is where everyone, well, no matter if they're subscribed or not, they can access your archive. Um, whereas your profile, that is where your notes are mostly visible. So that's the first distinction right there. Also, people can follow your profile and they can subscribe to your publication. And that's the key difference. You already mentioned it. You don't want to build on rented land anymore, right? So you want to encourage as many people as possible to actually subscribe to your publication rather than hitting the follow button on your profile. Because when they
Can I also say, Yari,
yeah,
have you not subscribed to me? Did I see that correctly?
this is my main email. Yes, my main email.
Oh dear. I'm sorry for calling you out there.
No, no worries, no worries. It's good that you called me out. It's good to be sharp on it. I have a business email and I have a personal email, and I keep things separate there.
Fair enough.
Um, but that is the key difference, right? Someone can click the follow button on your profile, and then they are way more likely to see your notes, but they won't necessarily get your post, your long form post, in their email inbox. So you always want to opt for the subscriber. So
Okay, so the difference is because that was also something I wasn't sure about. So subscribers are the ones subscribing to my publication, which silly me currently is the same name as my profile, which is my name.
yeah,
So and followers are followers of my profile.
exactly,
Got it.
100% correct.
And you know what also makes this easier to understand? You could technically have multiple publications, which makes it easier to understand the concept that when somebody subscribes, they're subscribing to an individual publication, which means most of our clients, and the normal recommendation that we have is to go with one publication, grow that one publication. And then if you have multiple passions, you want multiple publications, you can add that down the line. But for most people, it's one publication they have. And you want to make sure people are subscribed. They're not following. If we build followers, we basically run into the exact same problem that we have on other platforms, right? We are basically not using the biggest advantage that Substack has, which is building your list rather than building a list of followers.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I really like from your profile is that I get a clear impression of you. And that's always what I'm looking for. Is this a real person? Does it feel like there's something going on here? And that's absolutely the case when I look at your profile. And you have a clear personal profile picture. You have a banner which builds authority because you have the microphone in your hand. So you're presenting, right? You seem like an authority on the topic. I really like your banner, and really, this to me is super interesting. This line, ex LinkedIn employee now posting on Substack. Because instantly in my brain, I'm like, okay, so you know LinkedIn inside out. That's great. Like, I need to learn from you if I want to learn about LinkedIn. One thing that I would still do is you have this sentence here. I show you what actually creates visibility on LinkedIn. I would love to see that sentence in your bio as well. Why? Because on mobile phone, not everyone will see the banner, and this sentence is not necessarily a value statement, right? It's not necessarily an indicator of someone who doesn't know you what they're going to learn. But this sentence, I show you what actually creates visibility on LinkedIn, is like, oh, that's a really good hook. And then combined with the fact that you're an ex LinkedIn employee, instantly you have value proposition and authority building. That's such a good hook to then go and check out your publication. So that's a tweak I would make to your bio there.
Actually, as you were talking, Yari, I realized maybe from the text itself, just changing the spots would make sense, right? The text on the image into the bio and the bio text onto the image. Because the I left LinkedIn because of LinkedIn part, that's really fun. It's also kind of shows personality.
Yeah.
But it's an additional reason to trust you and to go with you. It's not the first reason when I'm not familiar and I have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah, I like this. I give kind of like the same advice for people on LinkedIn, which is always do always do clarity over clever. So whilst this line is clever and quirky, but if you're not a Stephen Bartlett with millions of followers that people already know from the outside, just lean more on the boring side and on the clear side, because that's what people, exactly as you said, they need to clock it instantly.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Exactly. And I agree with Sinam that this line itself builds a lot of personality. It shows personality. So I would simply then take that to your banner because it's still funny. It's still, when I read it, it's funny. It's not, indeed not clear what I'm going to get, but it adds personality. So shifting it around is something I would do. Then when I take a look at your notes, I would say keep doing what you're doing because you're posting consistently and you're getting a lot of engagement. And I really get the feeling that with the way you write your notes, again, I get the feeling like I know you and I can feel your personality. And that's so important, especially in this day and age of AI generated content, right? Knowing that you're real and that I feel a personal connection with you. So I would say that's mostly it on the profile side. You've done a really good job there. Just make the tweak to the bio. If we're moving to your publication, this is where I would actually love to see that congruency between the branding you have going on here. See that on the publication design as well. Have you ever played around with the settings, the design settings of your publication?
I did not know that was possible.
Okay, we can take a quick look at that. Just let's see. Let's do that right over here to Substack. If you go to the dashboard, in the bottom left, you see website editor. You always want to make sure that custom body layout is turned on because that allows you to customize your publication way more in depth. You can change the branding here, but you can more importantly change your hero section so that it features your most popular post, so that it features a hero post. You can add a dynamic call to action, which is this thing. It's called a subscribe block. Based on someone's status, the call to action will change. So someone who isn't a subscriber yet, in our case, they will see this call to action. If someone is already a subscriber, they will see a call to action to upgrade to paid. And if they're already a paid subscriber, we simply send them a thank you message. I recommend putting this right below your hero section. So it's another entry point, right? We want to create as many entry points as possible for someone to hit that subscribe button. If at any point you have any questions about these features, just let me know. Just feel free to interrupt me. I would also recommend to have the subcategories that you write about, right? The main categories is LinkedIn, how to grow on LinkedIn, right? But maybe there's subcategories. Maybe there's how to monetize on LinkedIn. Maybe there's specific LinkedIn features, for example, LinkedIn strategies that you show those different subcategories on your homepage as well, simply because that way we are here on the homepage. It creates this instant impression of this is what I'm going to learn. And if I am new to LinkedIn, for example, so I would absolutely have a section called LinkedIn for beginners, right? If you're new to LinkedIn, those are the posts you're looking for. If you're looking to monetize on LinkedIn, you are looking particular for those type of posts. So you're making it easy for both existing subscribers and strangers to find exactly what they're looking for, which is going to help with retention for existing subscribers, but it's also going to help with attracting new subscribers, right? Who can instantly find, oh, I'm new to LinkedIn. I can instantly now find some of the best resources that Alicia has created. Click on it, read it, hit the subscribe button.
Can I ask a question here?
Of
Um,
course.
I'm still, I mean, I don't know how many publications I've put out, like newsletters I've put out, maybe like 10 or something like this.
Mhm.
Um, and so there is not like a huge database yet. But so
Yeah.
far, what I've been posting about is LinkedIn and then also a couple of more personal ones. Of course, they're somewhat related to my business, but it's also more me and what's going on in my life. So would you say, rather than having two publications, which would be one LinkedIn and one Alicia's personal life, keeping it with one publication, but then under my LinkedIn publication, I might have then a separate section where I can say like learn more about me, and this is then the category I would put it under.
Yeah, absolutely. I would indeed not go for two publications because I would first focus on building one. And I also think those personal posts, they build the relationship with you. You can just make sure that they are indeed then in a separate category, basically, so people can find those. Because I can also imagine that your super fans, right? They would love to read that even more. So you also make it easier to find for them. Yeah.
Perfect. And when I put out a new publication, it will go out to all of my subscribers anyway, or is there a way to segment my subscribers that one publication only goes to one? Like, for example, when we do this with like LinkedIn for beginners versus LinkedIn for people who want to go all in,
Yeah.
can I, yeah,
You
send it to the.
you could create sections. So a section is basically like a newsletter within your overall publication. So you could, for example, have this section of just LinkedIn posts and a section that's more personal posts. So someone, a subscriber, can then decide: do I want to receive those personal posts as well? Yes or no. I wouldn't necessarily say that that's the change you have to make. um, I think it depends on how personal and how related your personal content still is to the topic of growing on LinkedIn. If it's still, in a sense, right, you're talking about building your business, for example. To me, I'm interested in growing on LinkedIn, but also in business and entrepreneurship. That would still be applicable. And a post like this, to me, sounds interesting. So I wouldn't make this change straight away, actually. I would, however, just encourage you to think of: how often am I going to share a personal post, or am I going to make some of my notes more personal and leave the majority of my posts more focused on LinkedIn itself? Because I think notes are a really good tool to also share that personal side of you. Um, and that, like, doesn't matter if someone subscribed or not.
Perfect. Sorry, very quickly, last question.
Sure.
With the different categorizations within my publication, when I send out a new publication, like a new newsletter, do we call it publication or newsletter when I send it out? Like,
Yeah, if you send out something like this, I call it either an article or a post. That's what I
okay,
usually call it. Yeah.
okay. So when I send out an article, can I automatically tag what subcategory once I've created them? If I create them, it falls under, or do I need to do this afterwards and then migrate them?
Yeah. So what you can do, you can create in the post sections. With your old posts, you can still change this, but also with a new post, the way you would do it is if you click on edit, you click on settings. Here you see tags.
Mm,
I would recommend using tags for the organizational purpose of your publication. So I would make, if something is a personal post, just have the tag personal, for example, or personal post. If it's about a LinkedIn for beginners, then that's the tag you would use. If it's something about LinkedIn features, that's the tag you would use. So you have those 3, 4 to 5 subcategories. Because using tags, that's also what you would use in the actual design. So when you go back to the website editor, here you will see that you can add a block. If you click on add block, you can click on posts and modules. Then I usually prefer grid. And then instead of the source, instead of recent posts, you would click on tags. This is where you would have the tags that you want to be
perfect.
featured. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. So that's something I would take with you, right? The branding you have going on in your profile, make sure that that is reflected on your publication. Same thing goes for your about page. I see that right now you still have the default about page that Substack gives you. This is where I would go like all out about you and about the newsletter. So ideally what you want is you want to start not with about you, but actually what's in it for the reader, right? So what is the newsletter about? Who is it for? What are people going to learn? What is the transformation they will get? That's what I would start with. And then you have a big section about you yourself. And that is really the space where you can humble brag. So feel like every achievement that you have that builds that authority, that builds that credibility, you want to have that featured there, usually with some personal picture of you, right? To have that more establishing your personal brand and that connection with you. Um, because this way, and make sure you have multiple subscribe buttons on the about page. This way, your about page also becomes um, a source of new subscribers. Because certain type of users, I'm not personally one of those users, but I know a lot of people are. When they just go to publication that they don't know, the very first thing they do is click on the about page. Not even scroll through the homepage, but they just automatically click on the about page. I don't do that. I like to browse through the homepage first, but some people do, and then you make sure you capture that traffic there. Um, I would actually say let's then talk a little bit about the monetization aspect, since that is a big goal of yours, right? So you mentioned initially having the idea of wanting to build a course and then launching that, right? Can you maybe walk me through quickly on what's your plan? What stage of the course creation process are you right now? Yeah, maybe walk me through that.
Yeah. So, well, fingers crossed. But like the plan is to have it all ready by July. So the 1st of July is kind of like the deadline I've set for myself. But I do want to start pre-selling my digital course as early as possible because that will help me. Because right now I said no to a lot of one-on-one client work that helps me financially to keep me afloat, but
Yeah,
also gives me accountability knowing people actually paid for this. So I better get on it and put it
great.
out.
Yeah,
So I think, yeah, so now is April, so we have May, June. Oh my God. So yeah, two months kind of until it's ready. But yeah, the start of like the sales aspect should start rather sooner than later.
that's great because that's the exact advice I always give. Like you want to sell your course before you build it. Ideally, with any digital product, with any offer, you want to have validation that there's actually demand, right? So pre-selling it is just a really smart strategy. And also, your 850 subscribers, that's already a solid base to actually do a pre-launch too. So the sooner you can do that, the better. I think that will be very helpful. And then,
Can I ask a quick question here in
sure.
between? I have an email list currently on Beehive from webinars that I did on LinkedIn where I had like a sign up page where people had to put in their email addresses. So I have around like 5,000 email addresses on Beehive.
Mhm.
I don't have a proper newsletter set up because I'm terribly disorganized. So I only message them like once in a blue moon when I have a new webinar or something coming up.
Yeah.
So the question is, does it make sense for me to import them into my Substack or should I
Mhm.
keep them separate?
Mhm. I love that you asked that question. These 5,000 people are all interested in LinkedIn, right? It's the same target audience, basically.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, yes, but I would do a reactivation campaign before you do so. So, if you haven't been emailing them consistently on Beehive, do a quick reactivation campaign. The best, the easiest way to do this is by already incorporate your Substack into the mix. So some of them might have heard of Substack, but they're not familiar with the way it looks, the way it feels. So if you're going to import them and they're now receiving emails through Substack and they don't really know what it is, it feels foreign to them, right? So one thing you can do is out of the posts you already have created, um, I would say pick a few of them, and this could be newer posts that you publish, and to your Beehive list, send like the link to that post. So, for example, maybe you make it about a few LinkedIn strategies or a few LinkedIn features that they really should be using. Then the email you'll send to Beehive is just a short introduction, right? Um, and then you say, like, I just released a new post on my Substack where I explain exactly the 3 features you should be using on LinkedIn. Click here to check it out. And you're already directing them to your Substack publication. So now, A, you're reactivating them, and B, you're already showing them your Substack publication. Not even a hard call to action, not even an import yet, but they've already seen your publication. They've received the post there. They might already hit the subscribe button within that post. I would do that about 2 to 3 times, and then do the import of the list, because now they're warmed up, they've received value from you, and they have already seen your Substack itself.
And then when I import them, will they all receive an automated like welcome message from like Substack? The one that is, I think there is one set up. I'm actually not sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you go to your dashboard and your settings, you will find emails on the left-hand side. And this is where you see welcome emails. Welcome email to paid subscribers, to free subscribers, and a welcome email to imported subscribers. This is where you can actually edit that email yourself. So I would definitely do that. I would say, um, I would I would write it in a way where you address the fact that they have signed up to you before through past webinars or lead magnets, that Substack is now where you're sharing most of your value, and just stating again, here's what you're going to get. Expect a weekly post from me, helping you get more visibility on LinkedIn, right? Making sure that they feel like, oh, yeah, this is the right place for me. Um, so you really give them a custom message. I would also say, make sure you link to at least 1 or 2 pieces of your best pieces on Substack, just so they have, okay, I'm now imported here. Great. It's not just an announcement. I can actually now click on one of your posts and get value from it straight away. So you create a very positive experience.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And you just said, I currently put out an article once a week, and you also said once a week. So I guess that is a kind of a good cadence.
Once a week is definitely good cadence. Yeah, absolutely. I always recommend 1 long form post per week at least, and then at least 1 note per day. You're already doing multiple notes per day. That's even better. That's a good frequency to follow. Yeah, yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. Then, since your course isn't live yet, I'm just gonna take the assumption that it will be, right? Once your course is live, you want to create enough entry points for it as well, right? So add it to your navigation bar. You can, in the settings of your publication, I'll just show that real quick. If we're in the settings right now and you go to website, you can then, in the navigation bar, add custom links to it as well. Add the link to your course sales page there for sure. So you always have an entry point. On your about page, you want to make sure you have a short, it doesn't have to be a hard pitch, but it's just framed as the next step, right? If you want the full resource to grow on LinkedIn, get more visibility there, I created a course, click here to check it out. Just so you're using your Substack and the publication to create as many entry points as possible for people to A, be at least aware that you have the course, and B, potentially buy it. That first aspect, creating awareness, might even be the more important aspect, because the more they just see, oh, Alicia has this LinkedIn course, looks cool, looks promising, the more they've already seen it. Then when you do more of a promotion for it or a hard call to action, they're already ready to buy, rather than first having to like fully educate someone on your course because they've never seen it, and then making sure they buy. So that's absolutely something I would do as well once your course is live. One other thing I would do is, when you go and make design changes to your publication, is make sure you have a hero post. And actually, this already gives me quite an impression of a hero post. Um, a hero post is one that you pin to the top of your publication, because whenever you go to this post. You click on the three dots. Here it will give you the option to pin it to the homepage. And basically, a hero post is one you want everyone to see. Everyone who's new, they've just seen you on a Substack Live like this one. They've just seen you one of your notes, and they first click on your publication. What's the very first post they see, right? Right now, it's your latest post. You want to make sure it's a pinned post, a post you decide that that's the post that they will see. And I think this one is already to me looks like it's going to be hero post. So hero post is basically, this is who I am. This is what I do with my newsletter. Here's my authority. Here's my experience, credibility, and here's why you should sign up. Of course, not written in those exact ways. You want to make it appealing, but the hook like this. I'm an ex LinkedIn, and I'm telling you to stop replying on LinkedIn. Like, so a hook like this, like I'm an ex LinkedIn employee, and here's how you actually get more visibility on LinkedIn, would be such a good hero post. And then you want to make sure you add plenty of subscribe buttons to that post as well.
Got it.
Yeah.
Can I quickly check with
Absolutely.
recommendations? I heard, and obviously I played around with it, you can recommend other people on your publication. I recommended your publication. But I also wonder, who should I recommend? What's the point? Should I always recommend them? Should I recommend them for just a certain period of time? Do they also need to recommend me in return? Or is this just like, I know nothing about those recommendations?
Yeah. I love that you addressed that, because this is definitely one of the better growth features on Substack, and one of my favorite growth features. So, if you go to your own dashboard, then in the left-hand side you see recommendations, and this is where you see exactly who's recommending you, how many subscribers they're sending your way. So the recommendation feature brought us more than 9,000 subscribers. And the cool thing is, it's pretty much set it and forget it, right? So you set it up once, you recommend a newsletter on your end, they recommend you on their end, and it's hands off. And now the way the feature is designed is, let's take Landon as an example. Landon Paburan, we work together with him quite a lot. He already sent us almost 500 subscribers on autopilot. That means someone subscribed to Landon's publication, then they see a pop-up saying like, Landon is also recommending Right Build Skill. Do you want to subscribe? Yes or no? And almost 500 people said yes. So what I would recommend in your case, Alicia, and anyone looking to grow on Substack really, is to really focus on these newsletter recommendations. The only thing is, you will have to be proactive about it yourself, meaning you go and look at which newsletters out there on Substack have the audience I'm looking to reach. Those could be, I'm not sure like how many LinkedIn focused publications there are, but I would go and look at adjacent niches, right? So any newsletter for online creators, online coaches, digital entrepreneurs, digital marketing newsletters, a portion of that audience will have an audience who's interested in growing on LinkedIn. So those would be a great fit to approach for this recommendation exchange. The only thing is, you will have to reach out yourself to those creators and really initiate. So usually what works well is, if you found someone you could collaborate with, you engage a little bit with their notes and posts. So you're not a stranger when you send them a DM, but they've already seen your name, your face, your profile a little bit. You do that for 2 or 3 days, and then you send a DM. You just introduce yourself, you state your credibility, and you mention, like, I think we have a lot of audience overlap. So would you be down for a newsletter recommendation exchange? Most cases, the answer is yes, because it's simply a win-win scenario. I would really focus on this strategy a lot, because it's something you do once, you press the button on your end once, and it's set up, right? So it has a very high ROI in that sense.
Mm. And honestly, Alicia, I think in your case, the lowest hanging fruit is also to kind of monitor the people coming over from LinkedIn, also some of the bigger creators. I'm sure you basically have people in your circle that you are familiar with, that know you, because right now a lot of people are coming to Substack, right? Also from LinkedIn. And
Yep.
if you are kind of one of the first people to reach out and say, hey, there's this cool feature recommendations, do you want to just do it? I think that's the easiest yes that you will get from those people in particular. And since they have brought over people from LinkedIn, you also kind of know that your content is very likely to be interesting for their audience anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Because also I think it doesn't make sense if I were to try and reach out to someone with 100,000 subscribers on Substack, and here I am with my 800 asking, hey, let's swap recommendations. So I think it needs to make sense, one, with the audience overlap, but then also kind of like a similar size so that it doesn't feel like I'm massively trying to reach here.
I would actually challenge that notion, because I think, Alicia, you have a lot of credibility, right? As an ex LinkedIn employee, and the impression I'm getting from your newsletter is really strong. So if someone has 10,000 subscribers already, you're I would just reach out to them, because you already, like, they might say yes because you leave a very good impression. If you wouldn't leave a good impression, I would not do it, right? So I would always say, make sure you've done a good job at your positioning and at your branding and at your content, because that's the foundation. And all of that in your case is really solid. So I would absolutely reach out to bigger newsletters.
Okay. Thank you.
I
Thank you for the kind words.
I also talked about this in a recent YouTube video. It's not live yet, but one that I recorded, in terms of reaching out to bigger collaboration partners, essentially. And I think the key is, I mean, when you reach out to someone with 10,000 subscribers, you have the credibility from LinkedIn, right? It's the audience you've built on LinkedIn isn't entirely worthless when it comes to me making a decision in terms of, do I trust you enough to team up with you? But if you are on Substack, you don't have that kind of audience credibility anywhere else, and you reach out to someone with a bigger audience. If I'm Right Build Scale with 45,000 subscribers, and someone reaches out to us for a collaboration and they have a few thousand subscribers, the key things that I'm looking for is you making a very clear first impression in terms of what is the collaboration that you are interested in, and you making very clear how to do this in a way that makes it very easy for me. Because when you have 3,000 subscribers, you reach out to me, I have 45,000 subscribers. What is in it for you is very obvious, right? You are getting in front of a lot more people. So you need to make a very clear statement in terms of what is in it for me. And ideally, I would even recommend basically taking up the majority of the work that goes into the collaboration, and just making sure that the other person, the one that is bringing the larger part of the audience, has a very easy time basically saying yes. Flash out the value that their audience is going to get out of it. I think that's a really underrated kind of tip for most newer creators, because if you know that you can bring value to their audience, just because they have more subscribers doesn't mean that they will say no. We are very open to collaborating with much smaller creators. But if somebody is sending me a message saying, hey, do you want to swap recommendations? I'm probably going to ignore it, because you are basically requesting that I do the background search and try to evaluate whether it's worth it, which most of the time it's not. And I think you have a standing, you have credibility, you have the audience on LinkedIn. So most of that doesn't even apply to you in that sense, because you are not really like, I know last time we talked, you called yourself kind of a baby creator, but you've built a lot. You have the credibility. So I think you can lead with that in most conversations.
All right.
Absolutely agree. I would say those were some of the main points that stood out to me when I was looking at your profile and publication. So, Alicia, are there any questions you have top of mind? Anything you want me to take a look at right now?
Yes, I would love to know when you think it is the right time, or if it is the right time for anyone to start a paid publication.
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I would always say it really depends on if you have right now, if you already have an idea behind what type of paid content you would like to create. If you already have that in mind, I would say you could start that pretty quickly, like almost instantly. Because you have, first of all, your niche is pretty easy to monetize, in my opinion, because you are probably targeting business owners, entrepreneurs, creators looking to grow, right? It has a clear financial ROI. Um, so, yeah, let's actually start with that question. Do you have an idea about what type of premium content you would like to create?
Yeah. So basically, exactly as you said, it is tied to revenue. So anyone who is potentially subscribing to my paid content, they get insights that help them make revenue through LinkedIn. So it is all kind of like a payoff for them. So the content I was thinking about will still be obviously LinkedIn, but it will be much more nitty gritty and in depth and actionable. So whereas right now, once a week, I talk about, to be fair, I have no strategy in place. I just talk about like obviously LinkedIn oftentimes, to be fair, as I have a lot of LinkedIn content, and LinkedIn has a restriction of 3,000 characters per post, and I almost every time hit that character count. So now I have the ability to like dive in a little bit more in my Substack articles. But then with the paid one, I can be a little bit more strategic about it, go into like different topics and go more in depth. So kind of like the weekly free one could be like a top level kind of maybe summary, and then the paid one. And I don't know how often I should post on a paid one, but that would then be like, as I said, like the actionable advice, the step-by-step guide on what to do.
Yep, that's great. That we always recommend like your free content, especially in an education business. You want to make it around where to look. You want to shift beliefs maybe on what's possible. And your premium content is like the nitty gritty, super actionable step by step guide. I would also encourage you maybe to record the occasional video workshop where it could be something you already wrote once and like a very actionable guide, but then you create the video version of it a few weeks or months later. Could be the exact same topic, just a different format, so that your premium content is distinctly different from your free content. I would also encourage you to work with templates, maybe create some post templates or um, something you can make it as easy as possible for your premium subscribers to implement what you're recommending them to do. That way you have like almost more like a membership rather than a paid newsletter, right? You want to think of your paid Substack like a product or membership, not necessarily like just another paid newsletter. So I think that is already a really solid plan. Um, Go ahead.
Um, two questions. Sorry. So yeah, one, how often I should post in there, but then also second, which goes hand in hand with that question is, um, do I treat it as kind of like a community? Because as far as I understand, and sorry, this is like I'm so confused still with Substack. I can see like there is a channel for your publication where the three of you with Philip as well, where you like animate your audience, ask them like a question, like a bit of like a challenge or to do. Is this something that I should also do? Like treat my paid subscribers as kind of a community and proactively show up once a day or once a week, asking them questions and they can respond?
Mm-hmm. So what you're referring to is, I think, our chat. Our chat is actually free. We use our chat indeed to build community and to engage our subscribers. It's not a paid member only perk. I think the chat is best used for your free subscribers because that way you're building this community and the people within can then decide to upgrade or decide to purchase your course. Um, Usually, if you want to have some sort of community aspect to a premium Substack, I would kind of like have that off of Substack. It might get a little bit tricky there in terms of the subscription, right? But having a different environment for them to either communicate with you or with each other. But then again, that could also be its own separate offer, right? So I think if you focus on premium content like workshops, in depth guides, templates, that's plenty of value for someone to hit that subscribe button. Because also, what you don't want to do is cannibalize any of your future offers. I think, especially with your niche, you can build a course, you can build maybe high ticket group coaching around this topic. You could do many things to monetize this, and you don't want to have all of that in a $10, $15, $20 a month subscription because then you're cannibalizing your future offers. So I think just the premium content we talked about, there's plenty of value already to do that. In terms of frequency, if you can upload like post twice a month a high value premium resource, that could be a good schedule. If you could do weekly, that would be great, but I think I would actually prefer 2 times per month right now, because then that gives you plenty of time and energy then to focus on growing your overall audience and monetize the audience you have right now. So that's a frequency I would aim for.
Mm.
But I think you can really pull this off quite fast, and maybe even before you launch your course. Because if your course goes live in July, probably your pre-launch will be somewhere, I'm guessing mid-May, something like that, end of May, June,
Yeah.
something like that. So you could, I mean, of course, I don't have any insight on your schedule right now, but start your paid tier maybe before the end of the month already. And you could decide to do a soft launch first, where you just publish your first premium post. And at the top of that post, you have a call to action, giving people maybe a discount when they join the annual plan, just to incentivize the first people to join. But with 850 subscribers and the niche that you have and the topic that you write about, I would really make this a focus point. Yeah.
All right. What would you say is like a good price point to start with?
Um, I think, well, I can share our pricing strategy right now.
Let me quickly add something here, which might also be relevant to the pricing, because Alicia, you still have your membership, right? Which is your key
Yeah.
offer now.
So to give everyone a little bit of a background, when I left LinkedIn and started as like a solopreneur, I was doing a lot of one-on-one work, but I also started building a community, which is set on Circle. So separate platform. This is where I uploaded lots of templates, like messaging guides, webinars, all of that. But it was very hands-on, which is fine. But now that I'm traveling and I want to build a digital course and actually shift my business a little bit more to be less hands-on, I now downgraded my community. It is still alive. It still lives on Circle, but I'm not proactively promoting it. So I have now a community manager. So I'm a little bit more hands-off, but I'm
Mhm.
still popping into the WhatsApp every now and then. So I want to keep it alive. And then once the digital course is launched, I want to revive it and then be a bit
Mhm.
more hands-on again. So for anyone who purchases the digital course, I probably will do an offer where either they buy it and do it yourself at your own time, or with like a premium pricing where they can have access to the community, let's say for 12 months for like a higher price point. And then we have like weekly calls where they can ask questions.
Mhm. Okay, got it. Because I know Yari has to run soon, so do you still want to stay on a couple minutes, or shall I take over here, Yari?
I think it's safest if you take over, Sinem,
Yeah,
because I have another call in a few minutes. So let's do it that way. I'll just
yeah.
stop sharing my screen right now.
Then
Um,
we'll say bye to you, and we'll finish the pricing conversation.
yes, sounds good. Sounds good. Thank
Perfect.
you, Alicia, for
Thank
for
you
doing
so
this live.
much.
It was a bunch of fun looking at your publication, and see you soon.
Honestly, thank you, Yari. I learned tons.
Happy to hear that.
Thank
Happy to hear that. Have
thank you
fun,
so
guys. Have fun.
much.
Bye
And
bye.
thank you, Sinem, for taking over and answering
Sure.
those final questions. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So on the pricing, that's why I asked about your membership, because when you do have a membership, you want to still make sure, right, that there is a difference between the membership and the paid tier on Substack. And I'm emphasizing this because we had a membership before we had a Substack publication as well. Our monthly plan on the membership was always $100. But the value you get on a membership versus the value you get on the Substack needs to be very clearly different, right? And that's also, I'm glad you mentioned the subscriber chat, for example, because we could technically use the subscriber chat in a way that we answer our paid members' questions, right? Do reviews, etc. But we cannot do that and we cannot sustain it, but it's what we do in our membership. So we cannot offer to answer every single question from our paid members for $20 a month. It's just not sustainable, right? And I think it kind of applies to you and a lot of other people who already have established businesses who want to use Substack primarily as a source to generate leads and to close sales also. Um, So there's this fine line basically. Do you want to make the Substack tier very affordable, which means you can more easily promote it, get more people in? Or do you make it like we do? You have a $20 per month, which is higher price than the average Substack. But that's because the revenue we generate through our paid subscriptions is not really the thing we focus on. Because the revenue we generate through paid subscriptions is still the very bottom of the funnel, essentially. We make more money with everything else we do, which means we don't have the goal of getting as many people as possible into the paid tier if they're not willing to pay a little more than what most publications charge. Because typically, if someone is serious, they really want to grow on Substack, they might eventually become a client of ours. They don't care if the subscription for the monthly tier is $7 or $20. It's a no-brainer still to join our publication.
Okay, so I think it's a bigger strategy discussion and thought I need to have. But I think if I were to do both, keeping my community and wanting to proactively promote the community in the future and have also a paid Substack, then the paid Substack would probably be a lower price point than the community. And the community would be where people can have access to me and ask me questions. Or I potentially could even think about maybe I don't have a community externally and have a community inside Substack. That would be a bit of a higher price point, but I'm more hands-on and answer questions on that paid one. So I think it's just like, yeah, as I said, like the bigger strategy thought. I will have a think.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the exact price point for your paid tier it's not that big a deal, right? It's not that deep. Set it to $10 a month. If that aligns with the membership, you can always change it later on. It doesn't really matter. The bigger question, as you said, is the strategy part in terms of what does each offer do and where does it lead. You have a ton of community features on Substack, but when I compare it to School or Circle, it gets nowhere close to that because the chat is very limited still when you compare it to a proper community page or community platform. It just depends on how you're building your ecosystem. Is a membership a long-term thing you want to keep in your business, in your environment? For us, it's an absolute no-brainer. We have our membership called The Link. We're currently working on a second space. So it's a no-brainer that those things coexist. But this infrastructure makes sense for us, doesn't mean it makes sense for everyone else. I think on the paid tier, the one thing that I do recommend to pretty much anyone is making sure that your annual tier is very attractive compared to the monthly one. Whenever we promote our paid tier, we always focus on the annual one simply because it gives you more flexibility and just more touch points with someone in your paid tier to make sure they actually get the value. If you just get a month of paid content, whether that's weekly or every 2 weeks, you just don't have a lot of touch points and you can easily cancel your subscription after a month. Versus the annual makes it much easier for you as the creator to build a long-term relationship, obviously, and to keep someone happy in the longer run.
Thank you. Quick question for like the people on the call. If someone is completely new to Substack, is there a certain point at which they should think about a paid subscription? Whether it's like you need to have some sort of momentum first and then, or can they start with the feature straight away?
I was having a few conversations in the chat as you two were talking. I put a link to an article that we have on our publication, actually, where I basically described 3 different scenarios, again, depending on your goals, because there is not really a one-size-fits-all answer. You can have your paid tier turned on from the very first day that you start your publication. You can treat it like a tip jar without actually having paid content. You can wait for a certain subscriber count and then do a big ass launch, do a big campaign for your paid tier and hope to convert whatever, 30, 40, 50, 100 paid subscribers at once. You can do kind of a hybrid thing. It really depends on where you are and what model makes the most sense, because it doesn't make sense for me to say, oh, at 1,000 free subscribers, you should launch paid. There's just a lot more that goes into it, which is why I really recommend making sure you can sustain any promises you make, because the worst thing you can do is you set up a paid tier with very few free subscribers. You commit to posting a paid resource every week, and then you burn out because you only have 2 paid subscribers, which means you don't make a lot of money with it, but you have a high expectation of your paid tier. And naturally, what that means is you have less time and energy for your free content, which is the most important thing in the beginning, because that's how
That's the engine.
people
Yeah.
start to trust you and discover you. But I'll put the link to that specific post into the comments again, in case anyone basically is wondering about the same question. That's a breakdown of the 3 typical models and scenarios that we have seen. And yeah, if you have any follow-up questions, just comment on the post, ping me in the DMs, and I'm happy to help further.
All right.
I'm just quickly taking a look at the chat.
Could I ask like a kind of a wrap-up question? What would you say are the top 3 things someone should do if they want to supercharge their Substack growth? Like, what are the actions they should take?
So we talk about discovery and free subscriber growth, right? The most underrated one is literally connecting and collaborating, because that one is basically all about effort and doing the work. When you try to write a viral note or a viral post to reach more people, there are you can increase your chances by following certain patterns and structures, but you're basically shooting shots without really knowing if it will pay off, right? You could post 1,000 notes and none of them could pick up, simply because even though we have best practices, we don't have a button that we can press and make something go viral. When you lean into collaborations right now, you basically know, okay, you're reaching out to 10 people, you're going to get a certain number of responses, you're going to get a certain number of yeses, and you know you are taking actions in the right direction that will have a clear outcome, namely putting you in front of audiences that might be interested in your work. That's the easiest leverage that you can build as a newer creator. And in your case, it's not really, you basically have kind of a major advantage there, because you are not brand new in that sense. Even on Substack, even if you would ignore your LinkedIn, right? You have 800 subscribers on Substack. You have a community that is commenting, having conversations very, very actively. So there are a lot of potential collaborations partners that would be very thrilled to talk to you, simply because it's very obvious that you have people loving your work and paying close attention to whatever you do. The second one, the most obvious one, is the consistency part, especially also in notes, and also tying that to the first part in terms of having conversations. I'm a huge fan of batch producing and scheduling, but also have conversations in notes. It just stands out. Even if I look at notes with big comment sections right now. I hope the drilling is not too annoying right now, by
It's
the way.
fine. It's fine. When
Okay.
you're talking, actually, your microphone is good in blending it out.
When you look at notes with a lot of comments right now, you already see some AI generated comments being in the comment sections of notes. So when someone is leaving genuinely thoughtful comments, it still stands out, or it stands out even more because it doesn't happen that often. And this is all going the extra mile. This is not shortcuts or hacks, like growth hacks, in a sense that you do something tricky and it blows up your account. But it's the work that anyone can do with no excuses, essentially.
Yeah.
And the third part is more on the kind of strategy and funnel side, in terms of what we talked at the very beginning. Make sure your profile just makes sense and guides the reader to the next logical point and step. The publication, when I'm on your publication, I usually give you a few seconds of time, right? For me to decide, is this right for me? Do I hit the subscribe button or not? When I'm on an article, the subscribe button should be very visible. On your navigation bar, I should be able to easily find whatever I'm looking for. Also the hero post, for example, or your about page, it's making it easy for me as the reader to quickly make a decision in terms of, is this the right place? Do I stay here or not? And I think a lot of people just still underestimate how quickly people make those decisions. You don't have People don't give you like 10 minutes of their time to decide whether they subscribe or not. It happens within seconds. So the clearer and easier you can make that flow for a stranger, the higher your chances to actually convert them. And also like the profile publication name debate that we had in the beginning, right? Imagine someone is a new reader on Substack. They are just reading. They're not a creator themselves. They don't know how to differentiate between your profile and your publication, but your goal is always to get them to hit the subscribe button because, again, following you doesn't really get you very, very far. It's basically worthless. Let's treat it that way because it's nothing compared to a subscriber. And I think it's really cool that we have so many different customization options within Substack to place the subscribe buttons, have your navigation bar customized, have the custom CTA blocks that we talked about earlier. And just treating those intentionally makes it so much likelier for someone to go from being a stranger to hitting subscribe most of the time within seconds, let's say within a minute, which would already be a lot of time spent on your publication for someone who doesn't know and trust you yet.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the questions. I hope this was useful. I know like a lot of times when we ask like what do we do to grow quickly, it's on the content side, write better content, write better hooks, spot trends, copy the trends from other niches to your own topic, etc. But I feel like when it comes to actually making it sustainable for a lot, especially if you're a brand new creator, you haven't built an audience anywhere else, if you just stick to those things, to showing up as a real curious human, you have the better odds at actually standing out because most people won't do it. Most people won't make the effort to actually have real conversations, to be useful to others because most people are impatient. That's just the way it is. And I hope that everything we shared, that there were useful nuggets for you, but also for all the others in the audience. I will say a big ass thank you for your availability, for your courage to let us do this. I hope that some of the things we said are actually going to make it to your publication and hopefully help you reach many, many more of the amazing people. It's always so cool to see your comment sections in particular because it's so clear that you have a ton of super fans who are really rooting for you, especially in this season when you announce what you're doing next or your life decisions and stuff. You clearly did so many things right in taking people on this journey with you and being very transparent. It just shows in the comments. And that's what we said, right? That's the humans being interested in another human story. It's not AI comments. It's not about going viral and using growth hacks. It's just people who feel like they know you and who are rooting for you and want to hear what you're doing next. And
That's what I also always say on LinkedIn. And there's so much, like, I was smiling so much when you were talking about like how to supercharge your growth on Substack, because in essence, it's exactly what I would say on LinkedIn as well. In terms of like the content pillars, it's like, yes, I want to be known as a thought leader on LinkedIn, but also I want to be known as me and building in public and sharing what's going on. Because if you're just educating, people might learn from you, but they don't remember you. And if you're only talking about yourself, you're not building that credibility of knowing a certain subject. So you want to kind of bridge both. And I've been doing that on LinkedIn ever since. And I try to bring the same onto Substack. And also same like with the advice of how to grow. In the beginning, it's all about like, what do you actually have in control? What is not an algorithm? Because even with like the notes and like the discoverability, there is still like an algorithm in place, even on Substack. But what you have in control is connecting with other humans, reaching out to them, building connections. I do remember, and I mean, it was only a year ago when I started posting on LinkedIn, but I do remember the very first people that I started to speak in the DMs with, they're still there. And like, I still remember them. I know them by name. Like, it's like, this is how you start. And then it all grows from there.
Yeah, I love that you point this out, because I think it's very easy to overlook when you look at people you admire or people who have a large audience. It seems like they've always had a large audience, which is never true, right? Everyone started with 0 followers or subscribers at some point. And I totally know what you mean. Like, I also have these conversations where it's like basically a random person, but I remember them very, very vividly because it's been early conversations, and those mean so much to you as a creator, and you need to have them at some point in order to then make the tribe bigger, to spread your message. And I think the biggest hack in that sense is to enjoy that early stage. Enjoy that you don't have thousands of people watching every move. Enjoy that any mistake you could potentially make is not that deep, because you don't have a lot of people judging you. And the people who are already with you, they are incredibly valuable, and you can learn so much from their behavior and from their comments. Just enjoy that part of the journey, because it's I think it's like with a newborn, right? It's you only have that period once, because ideally if you do all the right things, you will never have that complete beginner stage again. And then things do change. If you have 10,000 subscribers, things are different. You have a different responsibility. You have different kinds of fears in terms of messing things up. So enjoy that stage where things can be more messy and experimental. Look for the pros instead of just focusing on how can I get this done as quickly as possible. It needs to be fun in order for you to sustain it. I think that's a huge mindset shift in itself. If you are under a ton of pressure, you want to make it work fast. I don't believe you can make things work if you don't enjoy them. Maybe it works for some people. I personally don't believe in it. I need to enjoy what I'm doing in order for me to do it consistently and actually do it well. And I've spoken to so many creators over the years, and I know it applies to most people. Make it fun, make it sustainable. It's a fun thing to build your own thing, and I think, Alicia, you're a prime example of that. Like, you are honest, open, vulnerable, but also when someone reads your content, it's clear that you are excited about what you do. You're having fun, you're testing things, you're not afraid to do things a little differently, and it's just cool to watch your journey.
It's so much more authentic. And then also, by the way, this is something like this whole building in public. I always think like when you suddenly announce like, oh, I do something different, or I do this, or this flopped, doesn't feel as cringe or as bad, because if you bring your audience onto the whole journey, they already know that this was something out of your comfort zone or you tried something new. A failure doesn't feel as bad anymore if you bring your whole audience onto a journey and you set the scene of like, this is what you're trying out and you're not sure what's going on and this is how you're feeling. So I almost started this whole journey of building in public by just making sure that if I have a big announcement that might not have been a good one, that it's not as bad.
That's so smart. It's a good one. Thanks for sharing that. All right, I would love to wrap up. Thank you again for your time. Thank you for your openness
Well,
to
thank
actually say
you.
this.
I learned so much.
We will put out the recording, so if anyone is watching, if you have any questions, feel free to just comment on the replay if you're watching that one. And yeah, maybe we can do a different variation of this one in some time when you have the next variation of your publication essentially and want to do it again. Just ping me anytime. It's a ton of fun to watch you on the platform, and thank you to everyone who was live with us. I hope to see you again very soon. Have an amazing rest of the day and take care. Bye bye.
Thank you all. Bye, everyone.